All right, I think we should just get right into it. What does an architecture broker mean?
Well, it means we are real estate brokers with specialized training in architecture. We both went to architecture school, and we know a lot about architecture. We pretty much only sell architecture, architect designed homes.
And with that said, it honestly doesn't feel like a lot of the times we're even working. I mean, last night you and I were on the phone at 8 p.m. talking about architecture for sale, which is,
Yep.
a gift to some degree.
I feel like, I joke about the fact that I feel like I never have to work a day in my life because, I still go on home tours. We're trying to put together a home tour on our listing on 7th Avenue with the LA Forum. And, we've managed to turn our avocational interests into our vocational profession, which
well said.
Makes me feel very fortunate.
Yeah, and talk to me about, are there any differences between an architectural client versus another client you're helping them buy and sell? I'm sure people are curious about that.
I mean, we're primarily listing agents. We help people sell architecture because we market the art of the architecture. We're listing agents. We represent sellers. We also represent buyers, and you have more experience than I do as a buyer's agent. But I think most of our buyer clients, tell me what your typical buyer client looks like in the context of being an architecture broker.
I think that it's really interesting because I find that most buyers are similar in that they go in with exactly what they want to buy, and 8 times out of 10 they end up buying something completely different. And so it's like, you could say that they want a piece of architecture or this or that or something in a particular neighborhood, and that could just, the evolution of buying is so interesting because a lot of the times where they started is not where they end.
I think what I observe is that we get a lot of design-centric buyers that come to us that we inherit from other realtors, and they'll say to us, I told my realtor that I was looking for a mid-century modern house, and they send me this sort of like traditional Cape Cod garbage that has nothing to do with architecture. They don't really even understand what I'm talking about. And so I sometimes use the phrase, we get it, So for design-centric buyers, we get it. We understand what you're talking about. But unfortunately, it means that we're only going to be able to show you a small handful of properties. When we look on the multiple listing service like we did last night to see what's open today, only this James DeLong property came up. Everything else on the market is just generic builder grade real estate. It's not architecture.
The other differences I think that we bring to the table, I've seen listings that didn't even mention the architect and the history behind it. That's such a big fallacy because you could add so much history to it, tag on to it, and really make identify the value in architecture, really.
True.
That is the value of architecture.
Absolutely. And we see these listings that are like Sub-Zero, Miele, naming appliances. And I'd look at the house and it's like, well, that's an architect designed house. And, you call the realtor, who's the architect? And they're like, I have no idea, but it's got a, LG washer dryer combo,
Yeah. I think the other thing that differentiates us is we're not really neighborhood specialists to some degree. We're architecture specialists. So when we look at a piece of architecture, we start with that to some degree. Is really let's peel open the onion on the architecture itself, figure out what makes it valuable, run our comps, but there are going to be nuanced differences in that particular regard.
Yeah, that's why people come to us, because they want architecture, and their office might be here in Culver City. I'm thinking about a guy specifically who studied architecture at SciArc, who's a music industry executive, and he was kind of like, well, I love the Hollywood Hills and Silver Lake and not much downtown, and I could go to the West Side, but I want to be within 45 minutes of my office. And we sold him a house in the Dawn Streets in Baldwin Hills by Kemper and Nomblend, who were case study house architects, renovated in a really tasteful way. He had no idea he was going to be in Baldwin Hills with those fabulous views of the Hollywood Hills and downtown, but it was signature architecture.
With that being said, I think it's a good place to wrap up. We are architecture brokers. We sell architecture. We'll put our information in the caption and
DM us now.
Good job.